Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast.
This isn't two podcasters talking business. This is two business guys trying to podcast.
So Tyler just came in steaming, and we haven't talked about it yet. So you wanna tell me what's going on, buddy? He literally walks in. He's like, "I'm fucking done with this. I'm fucking done with them."
Them being everyone. No, it's
like the mutterings of a lunatic.
So we're just wrapping up like a pretty big job, and I'm really frustrated for a couple reasons, mostly because like the timeline was really tight, and it's on top of that everything was just like everything was super rushed. There's way too many trades on top of each other towards the end of the project, and it's just really, really hard to get your shit kind of like organized and controlled.
In 3 sentences, you said it's tight, you're on top of one another, and it's hard.
It gets better.
Okay.
It's dirty.
All right.
That's all I got. No, I don't know, it's just when you have like a little bit of slippage happening every single day.
Are you doing this on purpose?
Slippage is a real business term. What's another good one? No, like that's all I got. That's all I got. Next thing I'll say though would probably be dirty. Yeah, so I'm trying to get my guys to get stuff done quickly and efficiently, obviously, but there's just all this fucking messiness that happens with everything, and they're just not like, and the general contractor's like not really pulling his weight in terms of like protecting finished areas and whatever. Like, that's not my job to protect the other people's finished work. They should be doing that themselves, but he just like doesn't do it, and then when it gets damaged, he just blames whoever damaged it. It's like, you should have fucking covered it. Like, you're in here telling me to get this done fast, and we're trying to go do fast work, and then it's like I put something on the floor and it scratches the floor. So you should have fucking covered the floor. Like, that's not my problem. It's always a very specific thing in contracts. Is like, am I responsible for floor covering or not? Because it's like hundreds of dollars and a couple hours of labor to actually do all that work. He's like, no, you're not responsible for it. We take care of it. But they don't do it. And then when you damage the floor, they're like, well, that comes off your cut. And it's like really fucking frustrating because we have to like upcharge a bunch of stuff because there's been a bunch of surprises. And then as we send him all these upcharges, he's like, well, you damaged this, you damaged that, you damaged this. And then he's like fucking nickel and diming us on this stuff. And it's like equally frustrating because I'm also upset at my guys for like doing all this stuff. So I don't know, it just seems really, maybe seem like really kind of pedantic that I'm just like annoyed about this kind of stuff. But it's just, when you're running a business and it's like letting go of the perfectionism or like the standard of whatever delivery that I can do on my own is so hard. And it's like, I literally have to spend almost as much time fucking writing people to do shit properly as I will doing my own work. Like, yeah, it's fucking annoying. I wish I could just like do good work and people could just fucking clean up after themselves and be responsible adults, but that's just too much to ask. So yeah, I'm just really really annoyed with everybody, and yeah, I really just want to fucking move on to the next job. It's just always also like fatigue in a certain project. When you like reach the end of it, you're just so fucking done. It's like I like coming back after it's all finished and like, oh wow, this looks so nice. But like on the last couple of days, like, fuck this, fuck that, that looks like shit. I hate this fucking house. I hate you. Fuck you. It's like everyone's mad, everyone's stressed out, and it just like makes the end of the job is always the worst. And the more rushed it is, the worse it gets. So I'm currently at like the worst day of the job right now.
Well, take a drink and relax as we approach the 105th episode of Alcohol Beyond This Point, the podcast. Yeah, that was the pre-intro.
Yeah, just cut that whole thing out. Just cut in 3/4 of the way through and just leave in all the sexual innuendos and double entendres.
Harder slippage. That'll just be the entire
harder slippage.
Said,
riding. Grinding, dirty, all the productive business terms that you learn in college.
Thanks for listening, guys. My name is Willows. Tyler is that one. He glared at me when I said that and took a drink. So
No, I was in the middle of taking a drink and I glared at you because you looked at me to say my name while I was sipping.
Do you want to discuss this anymore, or did you just you just needed to rant?
That was enough. That was more than
all right.
enough.
All right.
I'm just fucking ready for a drink and ready to do something that's not thinking about that house.
So I was thinking this might be good content for the podcast and also productive for myself. I want you to grill me on this really dumb business decision that I'm about to make.
Yeah, so Willis is getting into municipal politics, aka the rubber stamp business.
So this will come out in a few weeks, so it's probably, and this is pretty low stakes. I usually don't like to talk about business things like specifics until they happen.
Yeah.
But this is pretty interesting, and I want your take on it.
It is happening, so it's relevant.
Well, okay. So basically, there's this business that I have the opportunity to purchase.
Why?
Because the owners are retiring.
Why you?
Why anyone?
How did you get introduced to this opportunity?
I saw it on Facebook.
It was I was going to say, did you find it on fucking Facebook?
Yes. I'm in the Manitoba Businesses for Sale Facebook group.
Oh, no.
And a real estate agent posted it in there.
Okay.
Because they don't know how to use the internet, the owners.
Right.
So it is a rubber stamp business, which I'm not 100% sure what it is, but you can make buttons and name tags and other things of that nature.
Right.
And I want, so every time I see a business for sale that's like not super expensive in the province, I always ask to look at their books, just mainly out of curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And usually you have to sign like an NDA, but you get to read the books. And then me and Zach kind of just laugh at them or whatever, right? So I send them these books, my business partner, to laugh at. And then I wake up at 6 a.m. the next day to, I'm not kidding, 27 pages of his due diligence that he's done research into the company.
That tracks.
It took like 40 minutes to read. And he's like, why did I woke up way too early and then I didn't have to go to my first thing. And then so I'm like, well, maybe I'll just read the books because I'm bored. And then he ended up spending like 5 hours doing due diligence on a business. And he's like, I actually think it's a buy. So I'll break down a little bit of the numbers here. So they want it's listed for $109,000.
Okay.
Right. They did $200,000 last year in sales.
Okay.
But 170-ish. They got like some SEBA money, so that they count that in sales, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like 201 if you count that, 175 if you don't.
Right.
So 175 sales from products, with like a 65% net margin, like pretty high.
Yeah.
Or gross margin rather. And there's only 2 of them, and they appear to be in their 70s.
Okay.
One of them works 2 days a week. One of them works 3 days a week, 8 hours a day.
Right.
And they do the $200,000 or $175,000. Let's just say 200 for math. In that 40 hours a week between 2 older people, which I would make the bold assumption that those 2 people working 40 hours a week is probably one 20-year-old working 40 hours a week.
It depends on the work. Some things you cannot do faster.
Yeah, well, we have a meeting on Tuesday to figure out exactly like, are they working that equipment to the bone or what's happening here? But I have their books for the last 6 years.
Right.
There was a drop off during COVID, but that makes sense because I think some of their clients are like hotel chains and stuff.
Yeah.
They do like the name tags for them. So like those were closed during COVID. Right. So
or just service businesses in general.
Yeah,
but
their revenue dropped during COVID and then came back up in the last 2 years.
Right.
So that's fine. But I have their 6 years of books and it's been within like 10%
year over year.
So I think they just have the amount of clients they have and they don't want any more.
Right.
Right. So what Zach and I were originally what I was originally laughing at, because I just skimmed the books, was that they, and they didn't make me sign an NDA, for the record. This is why I'm allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I won't say the name of the business. But yeah, I did not sign anything. There was no expectation. There's probably an expectation I wouldn't talk about it on a podcast, but there was no. I won't say the name of the business.
They probably don't know what a podcast is.
They do not. So there is a. I was laughing because they did $200,000 in sales last year, but they lost $4,000. And I'm like, look at these boomers that are running a business, losing money, and trying to sell it for 100 G's, right? But then, as Zach astutely points out, they pay themselves $90,000.
Right.
Looking at it, a cursory glance looks like they just pay 100% of the company's profit out to avoid tax liability.
Right.
Which is dumb, because the tax liability for the corporation is going to be half what it is for you making the same amount of money, but that's besides the point. But that's what it looks like, because originally I'm like, okay, there's $90,000 in salaries, but then I was looking into it more, there is no employees. It's just the two of them.
Right.
So they pay themselves $45,000 each.
So you could consider 90,000 is your net margin on the 175.
Correct.
So it's like a 40%.
Yeah.
Sorry, 60%.
Which is extremely good.
Yeah.
Right. Like my winery is netting 10.
Yeah.
Right. So there's also, we would probably move the operation into one of our buildings.
Right.
Which the most expensive line item on their books is the rent. So they're paying $20,000 a year in rent. So we would cut the rent. So you cut 20. So you add another $20,000 to the profit.
Well, to one of your, like, you would just roll it into.
Wait, the back of one of my warehouses that we already pay for.
So zero rent.
Yeah. So it'll be zero rent, because it'll be or the business will pay one of my other businesses that own those warehouses some sort of.
You would have to, yeah.
Rumination. What is it called?
Remuneration.
Remuneration, just to pay the hydro and stuff, the power.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that would cut off a big line item right there. The payment on the debt for like $110,000 would only be $2,000 a month, right, approximately. We did the math on a 5-year term at 8% interest, which I think is probably pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
And so that's easily covered by just taking some of the salary
and the rent.
That's so, yeah, the rent basically if we take the rent off the books and replace it with the debt, it's the same payments essentially.
Close. Yeah.
Close. So, and then the other thing is, we sat down with my one of my employees for the winery, who also happens to be Zach's little brother, and he agreed to run it the day-to-day.
Do the work,
yeah. So the idea, we gave him 2 pitches. We'll pay him $40,000 a year to do the work, or $20,000 a year for 2 years, and then he gets equity in the company after that 2 years. Like, it basically, so it's like we're taking half his wage as a buy-in.
Right. I mean, yeah, if he's willing to work for.
Well, not only willing, but he's been begging us for more hours because he wants to move out of his mom's house.
Yeah.
And his mother lives in Manitoba housing.
Right.
Like government Section 8 type stuff. And this year he's about to file his taxes for the first time, because we're his like first full-time job.
Right.
He's about to file his taxes. Manitoba housing charges each occupant over 18 that has a job.
Right.
A percentage of their income.
Right.
Right. So he's going to have to start paying. And it's apparently as soon as you file, it like sends off red flags with CRA. So he wants to move out ASAP. But we don't give him enough hours right now.
Right.
To make that realistic. Because there isn't enough hours to work. Like, he's only working maybe 30 hours a week for us. Maybe less.
So would his 40 hours eat into his ability to work at the winery?
They, not my department, but Zach and him both think no. It would be fine.
You just work more.
Yeah.
70-hour weeks.
Yeah, or whatever. Which I was doing 150-hour weeks when I was his age, so.
Yeah, but employees typically don't sustainably stick with 70-hour weeks.
Which is why we were thinking about equity.
Still.
What do you mean still?
Most people don't sustainably do 70-hour weeks. Like, you will hit burnout.
Seems unlikely.
It's
Humans burn out. Spiritual beings do not.
No, I don't know. 70 hours a week, like, I get it. People do it. I mean, I consistently do between 55 to 60. And, like, obviously I have a pretty physical job.
Yeah.
And I can do that sustainably, like, for a long period of time. That's, like, just my normal workload. But, yeah, as soon as I tick up over, like, 65 to 75 to 80 hours a week, I can only do that a few weeks. And then, you know, I have to, like, wind back a little bit, whatever. Because, like, I will get physically, mentally burnt out, and I become a fucking zombie. Like,
yeah.
There's limits.
Yeah, for sure. We've been impressed with his work ethic with the business.
Yeah.
He's never really been able to apply himself in life. He's like a high school dropout, but so is Zach. And he, you know, still lives with his mother. He's like 4 years younger than us.
Yeah.
So he's at 22, 23.
So old enough to take it on.
Yeah, old enough but he's like rearing to go. Like he's been asking for this.
Yeah.
This kind of more work and more responsibility, but we just haven't had the opportunity to give it to him.
Yeah.
And this would be like a situation where we could give it to him. And also there is a lot of money in the budget for if we needed an extra part-time employee.
Yes, yeah. So that would be kind of my biggest caution is I'd definitely push for or acknowledge the fact that you are going to see it's not going to be no drop off at Shrug and you're going to get, you know, peak performance doing the work of two people from him all in
two boomers. Boomers are
like I said,
people.
you don't know how slowly they're working. They could be super efficient. Like, yeah. I know there's a lot of fucking 70-year-olds out there that are doing their jobs super efficiently.
Yeah.
And they just do it mindlessly or
From
whatever.
like basic Google research, it seems very equipment focused.
Right.
Like
so,
it's mostly just programming the machine and then telling the machine to do something.
So that, yeah. But combined, they're still only doing 40 hours, right?
Correct.
Okay, so then he could potentially be doing less than 40 hours.
Potentially. And also, like, that's, like...
Well, if they're billing 40 hours, but maybe they're, like, actually doing, like...
Well, they're in the building 40 hours a week.
Well, yeah, so maybe they're actually doing 15 hours of work and they're sitting there for the other 35. That's kind of what...
Well, so I have a list of 20 questions that we are going to ask the agent in the meeting on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is, what do you do between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m.?
Right.
All day. Like, I have a kind of a suspicion that they just mind the store.
Right.
Like, they have a showroom or something, and they just mind it.
Right.
Because that's... so the company was founded in 1936.
Jesus.
They bought it in 1998, and they've been running it ever since.
Wow.
Yeah. So, gonna be cool to put since 1936 on a logo. That'd be cool.
And you could probably run it up to be like 100-year-old company, which would be hilarious.
So now here's the thing, and I don't think we really got into this with you when we were talking to you on the computer on the Facebook.
What?
But okay, so it's making $200,000 a year, between 150 and 200,000 a year right now on the existing clients, commercial clients that they have. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't have a website. They don't have social media.
Why would you?
Right? No, but so what I'm saying is, and what Zin, my employee, wants to do, this was his first thought, and I had kind of thought of it as well, is make an Etsy store, start doing custom buttons and shit, because that's what it's the technology is for, or can do. You ever see those like TikToks where the guy makes the shirt that's like, the Pulitzer Prize? No, the best award for journalism is getting killed by the CIA.
Yeah.
Right? And he makes little TikToks. Like, we could make buttons like that.
Yeah.
And then make little TikToks and get viral and then like sell them for $5. Like, and then your retail margins are going to be significantly better than your than your wholesale margins.
Yeah, like I said, you gotta just make fucking very polarizing political buttons.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what I'm saying.
For both sides of the aisle,
Yeah.
and help foment revolution.
Yeah. I've been sending Zach memes that what was it? Bird flu? Yeah, they tend to. Shit like that. Like okay, good example is I have a button that says the L stands for value, and I wear it at farmers markets.
Mm-hmm.
I spent $11 on that button.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't see why people wouldn't. Like, people do, is what I mean. Like, I've done market research. People do spend, they see something from a movie or like whatever, and it's fucking $10, whatever.
So you have a dank meme page and you sell buttons.
Well, and I kind of already have connections with a pretty dank meme page.
Right.
Right. We make Wilden buttons. That's a revenue stream. Right. And like, so I can make, I think like, door nameplates. I can make like a bunch of shit like that.
But if you make it for a meme page, you're going to be selling it wholesale versus retail.
Yeah, but that's another client.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's just what I'm saying is I think there's a lot of opportunity for expansion on top of it's already profiting $90K a year.
Yeah.
And they only want 110 for they want 14 months profit for the business. Which
is a fair price.
I would say it's pretty fair. The people that I kind of talked to about it said like 50% gross revenue for a business like this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's almost exactly what they're asking.
Yeah.
So
they probably asked a professional.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
What are their, like, do you have any idea what the value of assets are?
Yeah, I have their balance sheet. About 20 grand, 25 grand of equipment.
So there's not a lot of value in the actual ability to set up the business itself. It's just kind of like the longevity of the brand, I guess, since 1936.
One of their, I don't know how much I should say, but one of their clients is a big utility here.
Okay.
And I think they have like a big hotel and a school district.
Okay.
Is like some of their nameplates or whatever for school districts. So they have like long lasting customers, and part of the agreement that I'm going to request, because they said they would stay on to train. So part of that would be, I think, like edifying me to the clients.
Right.
Like sit down and be like, hey, these are people who are taking over, stick with them.
Transition period.
Yeah. Because if they I asked for a breakdown of what these big clients contribute to their sales, because if they only have 4 clients doing 200 grand, I'm scared shitless now all of a sudden.
Right.
Right. Because you lose one client in the transition, and all of a sudden you lost 25% of your revenue.
Right.
Right. So that might change the equation, but looking at the books, it does make sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's also interesting that if you can make that much money off of only 4 clients.
Well, I don't know if that's true or not.
But if you could, it's like,
how hard would it be to get a couple more clients?
Right, yeah. That's the other part.
Because it seems like they're not expanding on purpose.
Yeah.
Because they want to retire. Like they're trying to wind down, right? And my Zin said that he's like, I'm like, would you be willing to, go do sales and marketing and stuff like that, or do I have to fucking do it? And he's like, oh no, fuck yeah, that's what I'm like looking forward to.
Yeah.
So
I think your first action should be just full-time meme page and just go like full tilt at that. Like just start a brand that its entire thing is just like we post the dumbest shit and you get a bunch of followers and make fucking buttons for it. And that's like the meme is there's a button for that, or like there's Jack for that, or there's Tito's for that. Like, just some dumb shit like that. Like there's got to be an angle, but get someone who's good at it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Because carve that out of your create a marketing budget.
Because they spend like $900 a year on marketing right now.
Right, which is probably like a placement and some.
I'm not even sure. I'm not
flyer.
Even sure. Yeah, who knows? I asked for at the meeting they're bringing a better breakdown of everything, not just like a QuickBooks printout. So
cool.
He went straight from gonna grill me about it to like giving me ideas.
Me?
Yeah, I want you to be critical.
Well,
I feel like this is a dumb idea, right? I don't know anything about this industry.
It doesn't matter. I don't think you need to know. Like you're saying that to the wrong guy. Like I could fucking roll into a new industry with 48 hours notice.
Well, and I have a ton of experience in B2B sales
Yeah.
and light manufacturing, which this is, supply chain management. Like I have immense amount of experience.
Yeah, and this is just you don't have any red tape. Yeah, like you could potentially build this to be as big as your winery, like in a couple of years.
Because I think
in terms of revenue.
Yeah, because I think like we would probably take very little salary the first year, use most of that $90K to pay down the debt quickly, and then we'd be debt free in 2 years.
Yeah,
and then we're just cash flowing.
Yeah, it's like a nice
$40,000 each.
It's like buying
extra.
It's like buying a fantastic rental property.
That's essentially going to double my personal income.
Yeah,
if it worked out.
Yeah, which would be great.
Yeah, which would be cool. And me and Zach are going over this, and he looks at me. He's like, "Are we the money partners?"
What?
It's like, that's weird to say.
Yeah. Are we the capitalists in this formula?
Yeah, because we would basically, the idea would be we work nothing. We just do big picture, like make sure the year end's filed, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you'll be contributing to running the business better, like in terms of like finding marketing people, creating strategies,
yeah,
getting clients, doing B2B sales, just in and of what you do, right?
Yeah, it just in and about my life, but I wouldn't be there ever. Would be the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably wouldn't have to. I guess obviously it'd be probably working as an advisor a lot of the time. Like
yeah,
it won't be nothing, but it'll be probably good for you. It'll be like a little distraction, right?
But which name a money partner that isn't gonna be like very infrequently in my life, at least, have I seen silent money partners. Usually it's money partners that are in advisory roles. Right. At least in the level that we do business. Like you don't usually have someone buying, 35% of a business, then you'd never hear from them.
Yeah, no, that's only when you only see that when you're looking at like
multi-billions.
No, I would say more so like when you're just raising money by issuing shares and shit like that. It's like, oh, we're going through this round of funding, blah blah blah. Selling chunks of equity of your company.
So I kind of like. Sometimes I think like it's too good to be true. You know what I mean?
Doesn't sound too good to be true. Sounds like pretty basic fucking fundamentals.
When it sounds like, why would anyone? Because if anyone else bought it, they would need to run it.
Yeah.
And if they're gonna
you're just purchasing a pretty lame ass job.
Exactly. But I have somebody that wants to do it, and they want Zin wants to start building social capital and business skills and stuff like that. But he hasn't been able to find a job before us because he's a high school dropout and doesn't have any job experience, right? And it can be it's rough out there.
Or marketable skills.
Yeah. But he's been learning fast. Zach's been very happy with his performance. He doesn't really work in my department. He doesn't work in my department at all.
Yeah.
The only time I ever see him is if we're ever bottling and they need me to bottle as well. But he does all the assistant winemaking. He does the packaging for the cans. He does all the bottling and stuff like that. And Zach says he's a fast learner, and after a couple shifts, Zach can leave him alone to operate the equipment, and it hasn't been an issue. And
nice.
So
not an idiot.
Apparently not. I guess it is most of Zach's genetics, right? So
yeah. So presumably he's got some good shit.
He's got something in there, and apparently he does. He lives in his mother's basement, right? So he spends a lot of time on Discord and stuff. Yeah. And apparently he runs servers for people, and he makes money doing that. So he's like
a moderator,
something like that. And but he gets paid for it or something. But my point being, he's experienced even probably more than I am with kind of Zoomer internet.
Oh, certainly.
Which is how you market these kind of things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the thing with if we're doing buttons or whatever, you can ship them worldwide.
Yeah.
Right? Because the thing with my wine is I can only ship it within Canada, and it's fucking heavy.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. It's not cost effective as e-commerce business at all.
No, exactly. So yeah. So what I kind of in my head, I'm in the first 2 years, you're making partner basically. I said to him, I'm like, I want you to probably expand the commercial client revenue by 50%. So get up to like 300,000 a year with commercial clients, and then add another 300,000 with retail.
Yeah.
I think that's realistic.
Yeah.
At which point the three of us, if we were equal partners, we could each make like $100,000 a year.
Well, you got to keep in mind that your scaling up production might not be linear.
We would need more employees, probably. Well, and like
more equipment, maybe entirely different equipment. Maybe you're gonna find out that it's entirely antiquated and a terrible way of doing things, and you're gonna have to buy all new shit.
Zach was saying like there's two options. It's apparently they rent a 1,400 square foot warehouse.
Okay.
So there's two options when we get in there on Tuesday. It's either going to be like a table of equipment in the corner and two big offices with a showroom and bathrooms and stuff, and they're not using the space that effectively, or it's going to be a rat's nest that's just packed to the fucking roof with shit.
Yeah, I'm guessing number 2 is probably more likely.
But it appears like a lot of the raw inputs aren't like we could keep outside.
Right.
And I have a lot of outdoor space in sea cans that I have access to.
Yeah.
So all of that could just be thrown outside, and then I just forklift it in when I need.
Yeah. I mean, but if you're gonna be quadrupling your unit output,
we'll see. That was just I
Right.
like to shoot high on.
But then I guess you could always get a different building at that point.
Yeah, well, because if we're now netting so much more, then it's like get another fucking building, right?
Move back into Brooklyn.
I already made that joke.
No. On principle, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Dig a basement under Barry. No,
I can't get through
On
the
top.
concrete. Yeah.
build a C-can.
Also made that joke.
C-can factory on the roof.
C-can factory.
Just like a bunch of C-cans, cut holes
They're
in them,
manufacturing them.
and
Oh, a C-can made out of C-can.
a factory made of C-cans.
On that note, we're going to transition here into the part of the show that we call Shot Caller, the part of the show where you, the audience, can part of the show that we take. This part of the show is sponsored by stamp printing.
Because the printing press is the most revolutionary tool of the anarchists, and it is dead. So,
Well, I guess let's go like risks and challenges, right? The risk would be, one of the risks would be like you're going to get outcompeted digitally. Like, why
Right.
don't people go to Staples or whatever? But it's like, if they haven't been run out of business yet, it's not like 2023 to 2025 is going to be that different.
no.
Right?
No, there's no, I can't imagine there's any considerable change in the market of like the demand for this product. I can't imagine that like the technology of production or the method of delivery has changed at all in the last 10 years.
Yeah. That's what I think too. So
Like who's giving an edge?
they currently have 4 Google reviews.
Nice.
3 5 stars with no comment, and 1 star that says this is fucking expensive. Go buy it at Staples instead. But you're not. We're, in my mind at least, the custom printing isn't a retail business.
No.
Like, unless you were doing it online, like somebody walking in to buy a fucking whatever to print, like, is not. I don't know.
That's
That's not the model in my mind.
I wouldn't have a storefront at all.
No, we're not going to.
Yeah, why bother?
Yeah. We're going to have a door in the corner of one of my warehouses for clients to pick up if they need to.
Yeah.
And then,
But probably just use a LTL courier and get it dropped.
yeah, why not?
Be way more efficient.
Correct. Yeah.
Be like, yeah, how about you don't come here and we'll throw in delivery.
Yeah.
Stay the fuck out of
Leave
my
us alone.
building.
And I think the plan was we're going to keep the Boomer brand for the B2B.
Yeah.
And then make a separate cool brand for
Online.
the online.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then on the website, just be like, whatever, a brand of this, or like,
Is the name like shitty or
yeah.
yeah?
Well, it's but what I'm worried about
is it local specific?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a million other businesses named the same thing.
Perfect.
So I'll tell you after. But and they on their Google listing they have the LTD and the year of incorporation in their Google listing.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's a boomer business. But yeah, their website was built on the free version of Wix.
Perfect.
And it has like the plugin at the bottom that says like how many like worldwide users they've ever had and stuff like that. Like This is like 2007. It was cool.
So they have a website.
Yeah, but it was definitely like made by their grandkid or something.
Right.
Right. That was like, please, can you make us a website? Like, and it's
how many worldwide users?
Like 17,000 in 100 years.
Well, I don't think Wix has been up for 100 years.
Since 1936, right?
Nice.
Actually, Wix was founded before World War II.
Wow.
Yeah, they were making websites for the Nazis. Anyway, we're gonna
cancel Wix.
We're gonna take a shot here. Yeah, fuck Wix. Anyway, this episode's sponsored by Squarespace. If you need, it's a competitor.
Squarespace. Fuck Wix.
And if you want your business to be shouted out in a more respectful way than we just did, please pay us money.
Or if you don't want to be disrespected.
So yeah, I guess we'll talk more off camera, but we'll also I'll come back next week and re-report on like I just feel like it's a dumb idea. Like this was like it started as a joke.
Why do you think it's dumb?
Because
sounds too easy.
It sounds too easy. Why doesn't everyone do this?
Well, first of all, most people don't have the ability to just like run over to a bank and say, "Hey, can I get six figures to run a company?"
Yeah.
Give me money now. Most people like getting to that point. There's like entire nonprofits that are constructed in order to help people get to that point.
Do normal people, if they want to start a business when they're like 30 or buy a business or whatever, does the bank put them through a rigmarole if they've never owned a business before?
I think probably I don't imagine you'll get a significant amount more or less, but it's not going to be a big deal for you because
No, I'm not talking me. I'm talking like someone who's not me, like the average person.
I don't think they would get any more or less than you're going to.
Okay. Well, because I have clout.
Well, I think it's I think
bankers.
it's beyond that. Like, well, yeah, sure. You're gonna maybe you'll have an easier time, but I think the general stages of it, it's just gonna be a lot easier for you. Like it feels easy because you already have a general idea of how to evaluate the price of a company. You can look at the books and know what you're looking at and see what's good, what's bad. You can look at the product, you can look at the market, you can like make all these evaluations. Like you're just doing this like off the cuff, but this is stuff that most people who just worked a job never thought about running a business. You just don't have those things innately baked into your brain. So it's like, yeah, it feels easy because you're just like recalling all of this information that you've built up over years. But if you were getting in this cold and you've just worked retail your whole life, it would be monstrous and pretty overwhelming. So,
because like I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, it sounds pretty easy. It sounds pretty simple.
It's easy because there's nothing that you haven't already done.
Well, like compared to what I do for a living, like it seems pretty fucking simple.
Yeah, it's nothing that you haven't already done.
Yeah.
That's why it feels too easy.
Okay,
but you already know that you started a business on hard mode.
Yeah,
and you're like obviously like feeling the effects of that. So,
well, and this is just kind of like, here's what I'm thinking is like, if it's such a good deal, why hasn't somebody else jumped on it yet? But then this was also what I went through when I was writing my business plan. It's like, why hasn't someone started a winery? And it's like, take away that this is a bad place to start a winery, right? Why hasn't anyone ever really tried? Because, okay, how many people start a business out of individuals? It's like 5%, right?
Yeah.
How many of those people are going to start a business in the liquor industry? How many of those people are going to start a business in the wine industry? It's like statistically, it makes sense that there's one.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of what I'm thinking now with this when I'm trying to go through all the angles. It's like, well, who's going to buy an existing business rather than start their own? Who's going to buy, of those people, who's going to buy a boomer business that's not really relevant in 2023 anymore?
Yeah.
Right? Even smaller. And it's like, yeah, it's probably not that many people. Right?
No. Yeah, it's probably none.
But people, you always hear like, this is how people get rich, right? Like you fucking keep doing this. If I buy, over the next 10 years, if I buy 5 businesses like this, then that's a pretty good life.
Yeah, a lot of real estate feels that way too. You just feel like you're getting away with something.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you sequester a lot of resources and have all the systems set up, you got your accountants, you got your lawyers, your bankers, like you're most of the way along. Like it gets easier the further you go. That's just how it works.
Because I think like, we were talking about this. It's like, okay, yeah, now I fire their accountant and their bookkeeper. I don't even think they have a bookkeeper, but I fire them, give this as extra work to my bookkeepers.
Yeah.
And it's my per cost price. Like rather than having 2 separate bookkeepers, having one doing 2 books is going to be cheaper, right? Yeah. Having my lawyer file 2 whatevers, having my account, like having more people just makes it cheaper, right? And we might be able to get the supplies and shit for cheaper, honestly.
Oh, almost certainly.
Yeah. Like we have some pretty tight supply chains. I don't know how much overlap there is. I don't honestly know what it specializes in. I don't know what their income is. Like,
it doesn't super matter though, because the same principles that applied to creating the wine business apply to this. Like, it's just,
I didn't know anything about the fucking wine business when I started the wine business.
Exactly, and that's why I've won't fucking call you on that part, because it's like I know that the principles of anything that you do, they typically translate. Like there's a level of competency of the specific task that you're accomplishing that's very important, but all the other shit, like it's the method of understanding, it's the method of learning, it's the method of problem solving. That's what's most valuable. And it's like, how do I deal with a crisis when it's in front of me? It's like, do I start with a confrontational attitude? Do I start with am I, just accepting and adapting and whatever? Am I just like saying yes? Am I just running away from stuff? Or like, do I just throw money at stuff? Like all these different ways of handling situations will all become relevant. Like just, I did really high pressure sales, high ticket, high pressure sales. Like one of the worst things you could do as a person. Like it's so stressful. It's like it fucking hurts you on a psychological level. But then everything you do after that is easy. Like I can handle like I do not stress out about clients. Like my whole rant up till now was like I wasn't stressing about the homeowner, even though he's doing a lot to stress me out or like to put stress on me. I'm not stressing out about the homeowner. I'm not stressing out about the client. I'm stressing out about the fact that I don't have total control over my environment, and that stresses me out. But well, who does, right? So I've done the sales part so much, and my business partner fucking freaks out all the time about like clients and their emotions and stuff like that. And it's like, I never worry about that shit anymore, because I just have the confidence that I can handle that conversation when it happens. I can handle that negotiation. Like, honestly, the skills of negotiation and like sitting down in a meeting with somebody and just like knowing that you're gonna at least come out even with just about everybody and maybe on top, fucking unfair advantage, right? All these little things add up. It doesn't matter what business you're running most of the time. I'm not saying the competency doesn't matter, but like running a business is a competency.
Yeah, I guess like I'm just my biggest worry is like we don't know anything about the business or the industry or whatever. But yeah, like I kind of agree with you. Like it doesn't really matter.
The only fear that you have is what you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You know enough to jump in, but there's also enough that there's potential pitfalls. Like obviously you jumped into the wine industry not understanding all the pitfalls of that, or manufacturing and like the economics of manufacturing.
I was 18 years old, right? Business in general.
You didn't know the economics of manufacturing when you were 18?
I don't know them now.
What kind of childhood did you have?
Yeah.
Your parents didn't teach you that?
No, they don't know it.
They still don't.
They still don't, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the school system.
No.
Yeah, well, you know the economics of manufacturing now.
Yeah, now I do, yeah.
But you don't know the economics of rubber stamping. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, I guess it's just, it just seems dumb. Like, you know what I mean?
It's too simple, too easy.
Well, and they always say, like, They did an interview with a stewardess on a private jet, and she always asked the people what they did for a living. And it was always unglamorous things.
Yeah.
Like, I own a trash company, or
Right.
I own an elevator repair company. And it was always
I like that you mentioned that because waste management is like typically tied to organized crime.
So is rubber stamping.
Yeah, waste management tied to organized crime. Elevators.
Also tied. Cheryl Asser.
I was thinking Tyson Krupp is like the original warmonger.
Okay.
That basically started World War One.
Okay.
That's like the main elevator.
Thought that was Franz Ferdinand.
Krupp was the guy that was selling arms to both sides and was getting them nervous about each other's like, hey, I just sold better cannons to your neighbor.
So
You should buy better cannons. And the reason the war started is the instigators had just upgraded their weapons, and all the people they were attacking were like a generation behind on their weapons. They're like, well, if we attack now, we have an advantage because they're going to upgrade their weapons next. Like, he was not an insignificant part of like World War One and Two,
That's like
and
when-
the current like military-industrial complex came from the fucking guy that does elevators and escalators. It's the same company.
As I'm telling you.
So
But it's always like...
I like that your two examples were like organized crime and warmongers. Fuck elevators. Take the stairs, bitch.
Okay.
I don't care if you live in Dubai. On the Burj Khalifa, take the stairs.
All right. But I think this could be like an unglamorous business that could be like... Also, like, the number...
I am 100% on board with unglamorous business.
The numbers work.
Yeah.
Right? That's I said to Zach, I'm like, is this dumb? And he's like, the numbers work.
Yeah.
Like, it's they're profiting $90,000 on 170 for 40 hours a week of boomer work.
Yeah.
Like, even if they are working hard, I can get one person to work 40 hours a week to work. And like,
Yeah.
there's room in the budget, especially if we cut out the rent. We're profiting like $100K. Like, there's room in the budget for another employee if need be, right? And still profit.
For slippage.
Exactly.
I think it's a great idea.
Well, take this shot. This, for the record, is the last shot of existence of the Mago Habanero Old Smoky Whiskey. So, moment of silence. They've discontinued it. So it was a mainstay on this show for 105 episodes. Tyler walked in with it one day and said, "You know what I asked at the liquor store? Give me your weirdest shot." And this is what he came home with, and we've been drinking it ever since. So
I like how the story of how I found it changes all the time, but I am also down for the mythology.
rest in peace.
Rest in power, bitch.
True. One last. Why is it spicy?
Why is it spicy?
We usually have Chase, but we're also drinking whiskey on the rocks.
We're just
right now.
drinking straight whiskey and taking whiskey shots.
And then taking whiskey shots. So
that sounds about like my average Tuesday.
now that we're
Taking shots and then sipping whiskey.
now that we got some whiskey in us,
I chase my Jim Beam with scotch.
yeah. Now that we got some shots in us, the theme of the show is to see if we come to the same conclusions, both sober and drunk. Do I have your blessing to go ahead with buying the stamp business for $100,000? And like, okay, for context, the $100,000 is not an insignificant amount of money to me.
Right.
Like, because some people might be listening to this business podcast and be like, okay, fucking $100,000, whatever, right? But $100,000 is not, that would personally bankrupt me if this goes tits up. This is not risky.
I would say the odds that you can't service the debt,
Yeah, $2,000 a month, approximately.
very low. Well, service and the cost of service because you're also paying for labor.
Yeah.
So bump that to double, but $4,000. The odds that you can't make a quarter of its current revenue.
Yeah, because even if they lost a couple of the big clients.
So worst case scenario, you take over a business.
Yep.
Shit goes sideways. It declines.
Yep.
And let's say you see a 75% decline.
I can still service the debt.
Yeah, you could see up to a 75% decline over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
At which point you got to fucking rescue it or cut your losses, pay off the debt and leave.
Yeah. But the idea, because even if we can't if we can't pay ourselves, Zach and I, from the investment, as long as we're not working on it,
Right.
it doesn't matter, right? It's
Right.
just building an asset, essentially.
Well, it's going to be good for you to work on it. I think it's a good thing. Like I've been telling you for a while, you should have like a side.
You know what's funny?
You need to have a side chick.
You're like, get a hobby. And I'm like, okay, I'll buy a stamp business then.
Literally, that's fine. That's valid. Like this is your hobby, and it's like it's a mild distraction from your like primary stressor, right?
Yeah.
It's a secondary thing that you have to worry about, which is really good because you can pull yourself out. Any opportunity to pull your mind out of your regular grind and divert that energy into something else. It's like the best ideas happen in the shower or when you're taking a shit or whatever, because you're taking your, thinking brain off of it, and then you let it kind of marinate in the background, and you get really good ideas and innovations from that.
When I've been telling you, I've been trying to start a side hustle for a while.
Yeah.
I think I've said that on the podcast too, that I have a bunch of these ideas, but it's like hard for me to find motivation. It's like, this is motivation because it's already built. I don't have to build something from the ground up. But I get the opportunity to like have a new brand that I can work on and build goodwill on, which is like cool, but it's also not as much work as like starting a brand from scratch.
Definitely not. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the creative energy that would go into that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like just buying like a cheap franchise. You're literally looking at. You could probably get a Little Caesars going
for about this much
for
money.
about this amount of work.
Yeah, that's fair.
So you're kind of in that realm.
Yeah,
But this is not a franchise; it's a one-off.
which is better.
It's not better or worse. It's just different.
Fair.
Like a franchise can be better in some ways, but it doesn't have to be better.
Yeah. Well, this I have like unlimited upside, right?
Yes.
In theory,
Yeah.
because I can take it however I want because it's mine.
I think, the upside compared to a franchise, absolutely. Sky's the limit. So yeah, I don't know. I don't see a lot of downside to it. I think the probability of you failing this is dramatically lower than the probability of you failing at other things that you're currently committed to. So,
Which, in my mind, the main things I'm committed to, I can't fail at.
right.
Right? Like this bit, my winery's never gonna fucking.
That's
fail.
what I'm saying. Like you could let this thing slip until it hit 75% decline, and then you'd be like, you dig in your heels. You'd be like, okay,
Fine,
I'm not doing this worse than a 70-year-old when it's been in business for 70 years. I'm not going to do worse than that. Fuck you. Like, let's actually make this work, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
there's, I don't see a cliff of innovation that's going to make, like, stamping irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's like,
It still needs to happen.
it's like, yeah, when are they going to make print like the shit that changed the world was the printing press, right?
Yeah.
That's what changed the world. That's what changed everything. And I love the stories about the progression of the printing press because it's the story of anarchy, it's a story of labor, it's a story of unions, it's a story of protest and revolution. Like every revolution was led by some underground printing press because you could distribute flyers, you could distribute information, right? And nothing has really changed from then except for the degree of automation of the machine, because the machines used to be so complicated, you needed to be like a journeyman just to not get killed by the machine that you're using. And even if you're a journeyman, being around this machine will kill you because it's like toxic chemicals, all this shit. You will die doing this job. But it is so important that people want to do it, and it has a lot of power. And then also became like when digital and LaserJet and all that shit came in, you didn't need experts anymore, you just need labor. But printing itself has not changed in terms of its value, really. Like, I guess like papers and stuff you could argue have been going digital, but not everything. Like I'm looking right now, like you got fucking brochures, Christmas cards. You got a cardboard box with printing on it. You got labels with printing on it. You have posters. You have prints. You have whatever. We're not going away from that anytime soon. Until we get like the Neuralink implanted in the back of into my fucking brain.
And I'm looking at the wall and I can just see a painting.
Right.
But it's not actually there, but it looks like it's there.
But even when that's a thing, there will still be a market for real paintings
For sure.
because
Hipsters.
because the poors are the ones that use the Neuralink.
Yeah.
The real motherfuckers use the real thing. Like, it's
Yeah.
not going away ever. So it's like, I don't think there's a more stable business than printing and producing physical products.
It gets paid off in 14 months of profit.
Yeah.
And then it's free and clear until I either decide to not have it anymore or
And it already survived COVID,
exactly.
which wiped
and not only survived but rebounded.
right, which wiped out
A lot
a
of businesses.
lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So if it was going to get wiped out,
It would have done.
COVID would have done it because
Yeah.
supply chains around specifically like that type of product and just stuff coming over from China, which is probably where all that shit comes from.
Probably.
If it could survive that, like what's going to hit in the next 18 months that's going to be worse than COVID?
No, the only thing I could be worried
It's
about.
unlikely.
The only thing I'm worried about is like the big
Big
they're
clients dropping.
they're doing like 80% of their revenue from one client, say.
Right.
I don't know that, but like let's say they are, and then that guy when I buy it is like I didn't sign up to work with you. I signed up to fucking work with Dave. Fuck
Right.
you guys, and they switch, and then that's like 80% of the revenue gone right there.
Right.
It doesn't seem like that.
That's
from,
why you need the Riz.
Okay, well, it doesn't seem like that from the books, but we have a meeting to discuss more details. So this might have been jumping the gun to talk about it so early in the podcast.
I think it's good because
you're seeing at least my like the audience is seeing my mind process as I go through. Like,
I don't
making
think
a decision.
there's any consequences to discussing it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah,
Because
I think they're
unless there's like some motherfucker out there that's gonna like,
jump on it first.
but how?
Yeah.
What are they gonna do? Find the Facebook group, find the people, and undercut you on the bid before you've had
Yeah,
No.
it seems unlikely. Also, this episode comes out in like 2 weeks.
Also, if you pay more for this business, fuck you. Like that's that's stupid.
Yeah.
And it would have to be someone local.
Yeah.
So someone in Winnipeg listening to this podcast is going to do this research and outbid you and do that. No, there's no chance.
Weeks from now.
There's no chance.
No.
So yeah,
I just don't make it a habit to talk about my business decisions before they've happened because there's always there's 100 things going on in our businesses that we're considering doing that don't pan out.
right.
And you look like a fucking dick when every
Right.
week you're like, I'm doing this, I'm about to have this big deal, and then it never happens.
Well, I currently have a big deal, and I am doing it, and yeah, I get to like live out of province for like a month. That's gonna be fun.
How are we gonna do the podcast?
I don't know. It'll be cool though.
Tyler,
We'll just bank episodes. We'll just like
we'll do a 24-hour marathon.
we'll just do a drinking binge for 24 hours.
I wanted to do that this entire time. I was saying, because there was for a while there, I forget what was happening, but for a while there, we would like talk for like 3 hours after the podcast and be
Yeah.
drunk. And I'm like, let's just keep recording,
Yeah.
but do a second intro.
Yeah,
And then like I'll make it another episode.
yeah. Part two it.
We never did that, but like that was actually something I considered doing.
But yeah, I'm going into a project that is with the best possible client that you could ask for. And yeah, it is like the peak of everything. It's like peak creativity, peak technicality, and absolutely the highest level in terms of brand and fucking clout, I guess. It does not get better. And I'm probably going to be like the primary person just running and doing this whole job. And it's like, it's an international involvement. It's an American client, European suppliers and fabricators. It's architect from another province and us. So yeah, it's a big motherfucker of a job. It's an eight-figure construction of a vacation home. So yeah, it's gonna be fucking dope. It'll be a little feather in the cap, and being able to work at this level, it's like you can't fuck with me after this. It's like it does not get higher than this. It does not get better than this. There's not a single tradesman in the province that has done something like this. So it's like it's fuck you level, and it's happening in like 4 weeks. So very excited about that. And yeah, I don't know. I haven't been doing this trade for that long, but I feel like the fact that I'm like peaking is pretty fun.
I haven't begun to peek.
I am not even peeking. But yeah, like the whole carving statues thing, or carving stone, whatever that we talked about in the last episode.
Yeah.
I brought it up to another guy
I think that was 2 episodes ago, but yeah.
Yeah. So I brought it up to another guy who is like super creative. He does like custom concrete stuff. And I mentioned concrete carving. He's like, "Oh yeah, I actually made the exhibit at the zoo, like at our local zoo." He's like, "Yeah, I created like this, like whatever, like the penguin exhibit." He's like, "I did like all the custom like concrete stonework. It looks like this whatever thing." And
there's no penguins at the zoo.
I don't know what exhibit
I would know about this.
Okay, not penguins, the polar exhibit.
There are polar bears.
Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, I did all that like custom concrete, whatever." And I'm like, no. I'm talking about like carving stone. He's like, turns around, he's like, "Oh, you want to carve stone?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like stone. He's like, "Oh yeah, you should definitely try that."
We should get stoned. Okay, so we'll start a third business.
Getting stoned while and I literally said, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just planning on going to my backyard with a fucking rock, getting really high and going at it with some tools." And he's like, "Absolutely, you should do that." And he's like, "Here's my business model." So he makes super high-end leather accessories, but his main business is concrete.
Concrete and leather go together like chicken and rice.
Literally. But so this guy's like in his 50s, gray hair, fucking like shaved with like a ponytail on top and tatted from like fingertips up to his jawbone.
I wonder what this guy does with the leather.
Right?
I just heard the grinder notification go off on Tyler's phone.
Fuck off. So he said he was doing this big job where he created this like pool, waterfall, whatever, this whole feature at this
Why do I
house.
know what it sounds like?
And exactly. And he had some like leftover product, and so he just went to his client after this job was finished. Like, "What kind of bag do you like to carry?" And the client told him, he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna make you something." And just like for free, made this client this custom leather bag. It was like whatever, some kind of satchel. And that client told all their friends about it, was completely blown away. It's like, "My concrete contractor made me this gorgeous bag that's
out of concrete.
Out of concrete. That's better than Gucci." And he's like, "I got like more than $10,000 worth of revenue off of that one job out of referrals." And he's like, "You guys are doing the highest level of like tile and stone for these kinds of clients that have fuck you money and pay for whatever, and
they might buy a little stone buddy."
He's like, "Make something for a client, having been in their space, been a part of the design process of their house, build or like create and design something that suits them, give it to them as a gift." And he's like, "Wait and see what happens."
I like it.
And I'm like, who else in the province is in a position to do this? I can think of one guy, and he won't do it. Nobody else in the province will do this. So it's like, yeah, it comes down to that. What percentage of people would do this? It's like, I don't have any experience in this, but the fact that I'm in this position is incredibly unique.
You're literally just repeating what I just said about my other business.
Yeah, like you're in this unique position. Don't discount your everyday mundane routine.
Well, that's what opportunity
valuable,
is, right? Being able to identify when something comes up.
Right.
And capitalize on it.
Yeah, being lucky is being super prepared in the right place at the right time and showing because you show up every day.
Yeah, and then one day it happened.
Yeah, that's super So, yeah, I don't know, might get lucky this year. And
I hope so, buddy.
Sounds like you also got lucky with rubber stamps.
Oh.
Hey, that could be fun. I don't know what you're...
Okay, we're going to wrap it up here at episode 105. Thank you for listening to Alcohol Beyond This Point, the podcast where we debate sober topics, both business and then...
you fucking butchered
stamps.
Both sober and stamps.
You can follow my stamp business at Stampify. I asked ChatGPT to give me business names.
Yeah.
And Stampify was one of them.
Nice.
It'll be a parody Shopify logo. Anyway, shout out Shopify. Shout out
Stampify.
Tyler Bergen Stamp Company.
ChatGPT.
Shout out ChatGPT. Shout out
ChatGPT wrote this entire episode, actually. We've been reading this whole time.
Shout out Larry Krupp. What's his name?
I don't know.
Okay.
Something Krupp.
Bye-bye.
He loved horse shit.
Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast.
This isn't two podcasters talking business. This is two business guys trying to podcast.